What is up, everybody? It's Richie and Matt talking all things Jets here on the Jets Roundtable. This week was eventful for these New York Jets. We parted ways with two fan favorites, and we got a plethora of draft capital to be excited about as Jets fans. I mean, Matt and I were just talking like we are not going to have to be worrying about what type of content we make these next 2 years, because even when the Jets stink, we are the talk of the town, Matt.
Off-season champs. It's November, and we're off-season champs. An early crown for the New York Jets this year. It's going to be a busy little run here. I'm sure we're not going to care too much about the wins and losses going forward, but just all eyes on the offseason.
All eyes in the offseason, indeed, man. And you talk about a reset, retool. This is how you do it. I mean, I'm excited to get your thoughts about it, even though I've been watching your content, of course, but I'm excited to have a conversation a little bit, a few days after the digesting everything that happened, because, you know, we talked about the trade deadline and we talked about some guys, and it definitely went in a direction I did not expect with Sauce, obviously. So we're going to get into that. And, you know, it's mock draft season. Matt, when's your first mock draft Monday? People are asking for it.
I know. I feel very ill prepared. I'm usually not this ready for mock drafts in, early November. I still didn't finish my Halloween candy yet, and I got to get the mock drafts.
Oh my goodness. Well, the crazy thing, Matt, is on Bleacher Report, they ask me to do a Jets video for them every day, and they give me creative freedom to the topic. Well, they had requests for me yesterday in today's video. You know what they were?
Let's hear it. 2026
mock draft yesterday and a 2027 mock draft today. So I had to do research, Matt, and you know me, bro. You know me. It's really hard for me to do mock drafts at like in the middle of the season. So I'm like, I got no choice now. So I did research. I did a full mock yesterday, and I even did a mock draft for the 27 class. So if you need any insight, I'm your guy now.
I'm going to go right after this. I'm going to go watch those videos and take notes and then start doing my own stuff.
Oh, man. I was like, you got to be kidding me, bro. I was like laughing to myself. Really, dude? We got to do mock drafts on November 5th and 6th. But that's what happens when you trade everybody for first round picks. So shout out to everybody in the chat. We're really excited to talk things Jets here on the Jets Roundtable. Let's get into it. We're excited for all things Jets. Now, we got to start it off with the elephant in the room, just with the Sauce jar. Matt, I need to hear your immediate reaction. Where were you when this broke? Like, I feel like this is one of those things that you'll remember forever when the Sauce Gardner trade went down. Where were you at when that trade broke?
I was eating lunch. I was sitting on my couch eating lunch. I was watching something. It didn't even matter, but I got the notification on my phone because I have push notifications on for Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter. And I read it and said from Ian Rappaport, Jets trading Sauce Gardner to Colts. And I had to open my phone and go, wait a second, and look to see if it was real, like fully knowing that it's not like I have push notifications on for a spam account. Like that's Ian Rappaport's actual account. It took a good minute for it to sink in. I was absolutely shocked, Richie, as I'm sure you were when the news came through. I think they got obviously a really good return for him, 2 first-round picks plus A.D. Mitchell. We'll see what A.D. Mitchell is over the last 9 games. He's had a slow start to his NFL career, but it was clearly a sign that the Jets are rebuilding this thing, and they're going to do it through Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji's vision. And in order to do that, you need as many picks as humanly possible. And they decided to trade Sauce Gardner, and I'm not going to do the revisionist history and now be like, oh, Sauce wasn't all that good anyway.
He was overrated, Matt.
No,
Sucked.
I hate that. And like, why would Indianapolis give up 2 first-round picks if the guy wasn't any good? Clearly, he's a good player. It stinks to see him go, but at the same time, it's also exciting because you have this now hope for the future.
No, yeah, man, it's interesting. You're like, you have the push notifications on. And you're like, this isn't real.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not real, right? But then all of a sudden you look up and it's real, bro. And, the way I saw it, I don't know if you saw it, but of course, Sauce tweets saying it's been real, New York. And I'm on X refreshing my feed, waiting for breaking news. And my first reaction when I saw him do that is trolling.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't look at that tweet and there was not 1% of me thinking like, oh my God, Sauce gone. Like, It's Sauce messing with us. And I quote tweeted it simply saying like, oh, you really got to troll with us, Sauce? Like, come on, bro. And then 2 minutes later, breaking news. And I was live on Bleacher Report with James Palmer and the Roundtable guys, and I couldn't handle it. I mean, being on that show for that was a little bit too much for me, Matt.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been able to handle TD the moment, like just mere seconds after Sauce Gardner is traded. Love the
TD
guy.
was known to be a Sauce, like one of those guys that would hate on him, that he's overrated and all that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's a really tough spot for you to be in, like an actual literal live reaction, and you're on air when it happens. Jake's reaction, he was on air when it happened.
Yeah,
too.
I saw that.
Was great. I'm sure you saw that. It definitely caught Jets Nation by surprise.
No, it definitely did, because you are talking about Brees, you're talking about Quinnen, you're talking about Quincy, Jermaine. Like, there was not one mention of this. That's the thing that is mind-blowing. And shout out to the Jets for keeping it in-house, because the Colts were calling them for weeks about this, and then it ended up happening, the day of the trade deadline, because they just got so aggressive, the Colts. So how would you grade it now? Because from my perspective, there's two reactions. There's the emotional fan reaction at first of shock of like, what, Sauce is our guy? I still have this up. What do I do with that? But we'll see what happens there. So there's that emotional shock value of I miss Sauce, I love Sauce. You gets the extension, but then you look at what we're getting in return, and not just the 2 first-round picks, but wide receiver AD Mitchell. That could be the reason why this trade is a big win for the Jets. Even if Sauce goes out there and dominates with the Colts, it's not about the Jets fleecing them or the Jets won the trade. No, I think this has a chance to be a win-win. The Colts' first-round picks most likely will be bottom tier in terms of like late 20s if they have a good playoff push, which I'm expecting them to do. So how do you feel like the return? And just look at it from, I'll ask you this question. I know it's a loaded-winded question I'm asking you, but just from Darren Muji's perspective, what did this tell you about Darren Muji as the Jets general manager pulling this trigger?
Yeah, I like what you said too about win-win, because that was essentially going to be my answer. Like, I think the Colts get an incredible player who's going to help them immediately, and clearly they're going for it this year, and he's going to help that defense a ton. And for Darren, I think it shows that he's going to be, aggressive and think outside the box. Like, clearly, and he admitted it, like he wasn't out there shopping Sauce Gardner, but he got a call, he answered it, the price kept going up, and it eventually got to a point where the price was too good to refuse. And I think it was a really tough decision to trade a player like that, especially because he just, extended here. And this is going to be a cop-out answer, but I'm going to say it anyway. The draft grade itself is really incomplete until we know what they turn these draft picks into, right? Like, if the Jets find their franchise quarterback and put the pieces around him for him to be successful, then this trade's a win no matter what. Like, if Sauce Gardner goes out and wins a Super Bowl, is it going to sting to see that with the Colts? Of course, yes. But if the Jets land their franchise quarterback and they are a perennial playoff contender 3 years from now, then that's obviously a win. But if they miss on the quarterback and they miss on these first-round picks, then none of this matters anyway. But it's it really falls back to they have to now hit on their quarterback, which is the next step that scares the crap out of me.
Dude, I mean, that is everything. They can hit on every single pick. They can hit on every single free agency signing. But if they miss on the quarterback, nothing matters. And that's the big thing that scares me. And I don't want the Jets to settle for a quarterback and the team is so good around the quarterback, and the quarterback is just like that good enough not to be good enough type of guy, where it's just like he gets you to a point, but he'll never get you over the hump. Like, I want to win a Super Bowl as a Jets fan. I know that may sound crazy, but shame on me. But I want greatness. And I think that this trade that the Jets just did with Sauce, Matt, like, it tells me a lot about this regime. It really taught me a lot, because they're not afraid to do something that is out there that they know will be bold. And you got to be bold when you're this bad. And this is giving me flashes of the Joe Douglas trading Jamal Adams in a different way. The Jamal Adams one was ugly and he kind of forced his way out. We expected it. This came out of nowhere. But to get 2 firsts and an AD Mitchell is definitely a big, big thing. Now, when it comes to the Quinnen trade, I'm just really impressed with Darren Muji, man. Like, getting that value for Quinnen was flawless. I am very shocked. He got a second and a first and Smith, which, listen, he's a bust.
Yeah, he stinks.
He's a guy that's just bad. But guess what? the Jets now are rebuilding the interior defensive tackle room, and we need guys like that to try to see. We need to take swings, just like the Jets need to take swings at wide receiver with John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell. Now we're rebuilding that position that was been so good for so long. We went from, Sheldon Richardson to Leonard Williams to Quinnen Williams. We're known to have elite defensive tackles. Now we don't have one anymore, which is sad. So why not take a flyer on a guy that stunk it up with Dallas and Mozzie Smith? And the fact that Muji is persistent on having players come back in these trades and not just draft picks, I think is brilliant as well. So what's your thoughts about how Muji was able to extract the most value possible with Quinnen Williams and pushing the 2027 pick to be the first pick instead of this year?
That is huge for the New York Jets. And I didn't really want to trade Quinnen Williams. And, after the fact, we find out that he was privately asked a few times to be moved. And I don't blame him for that. I don't have any ill will towards Quinnen Williams. I think he handled everything here very well. And he was a good player for the Jets. I was hoping that they'd get like a first plus for Quinnen, but not thinking the plus would be a second round pick, a second round pick this year and a first round pick next year for a Dallas team that they're not really all that good this year. And I know you might be saying, well, wouldn't you want that pick this year then if they're not that good? Well, Dak's an injury prone quarterback. He's gotten hurt a lot. So, you're one injury away with Dak Prescott or just, I don't know, Brian Schottenheimer's their head coach. I don't know how much confidence we have in Brian Schottenheimer being the long-term answer there. Like that could end up being a pick that's in the top 15, top 20 of next year's class or in 2027's class. And you would have now 3 picks with the Colts and your own in there too. So it gives you just so many swings to really reshape this roster, which I think is something that they needed to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Quinnen one was expected, and the fact that we found out that Quinnen quietly, privately told the Jets he wants out and they kept it in-house, I love that. I really do, because that tells me a lot about this regime, that they're able, if they just showed us that they're capable of keeping things in-house and not get beyond the doors into the media world, which has been a big issue with the Jets. Everything that happens gets leaked. There's a leak, there's a rat. The fact that they kept that Quinnen Williams requested a trade with professionalism. And I don't know if you noticed this, but when the Jets got their first win, Matt, against the Bengals, I saw a video of Quinnen so happy for Aaron Glenn, hugging him, getting him his first win meant so much for Q. And he knew in that moment that he's getting traded. Like that win meant so much to him that he was able to give that to Aaron Glenn because he believes in him. And he had a lot of great things to say after he gets traded. So Quinnen is a class act, amazing human being. And the fact that they were able to keep that in-house really goes to show you that this team potentially has no leaks, no rats. Important.
Yeah, that is important. That's a big change because it's been a very leaky building for a long time. But yeah, again, that just goes back to Quinnen being the good dude that he is and handling things the right way. And I loved all the things that he had to say after the fact, like that he thinks Glenn is going to get this thing going in the right direction. He has love for the Jets for drafting him and for, everything that's happened over the last 6-7 years. I think it was just time. And like Dallas, like similar to what we talked about with Sauce, maybe even more so with Dallas, I think they made you an offer that you can't refuse. And, he wants to redo the contract anyway. So that was something they would have to worry about this past offseason if there weren't those trade requests privately. So, it just additionally opens up a bunch of cap space too, to, do some work in free agency.
And what about the trades that the Jets didn't do? How do you feel about rejecting a Kansas City Chiefs offer for Brees, 4th round pick, then rejecting a 2nd round pick for Jermaine Johnson and then some? They hold on to those 2 guys. They trade Sauce, but they keep those 2 young guys. What's your head at with that? Was that the smart approach? Because what I'm seeing from Muji is he's very stern. This is our value, and we're not trading these guys unless you come to our value. That's some grown man shit right there. So what's your thoughts about that? Because I'm glad we don't have a pushover GM.
If you have to be keeping Brees Hall now, because I think if you just go, you're going to, ride it out here the last 9 games and then walk in free agency, I think you would have been better off taking the 4th round pick, because I don't think you're going to get, compensation picks for him in free agency with, 1, the contracts that running backs usually tend to get. And number 2, the Jets have a lot of money to spend. They're going to probably spend enough to cancel it out anyway. But
Yeah.
assuming we're going to be talking about a rookie quarterback either this year or the following year, then I think it does well for a young quarterback to have a player like Brees Hall, who's a good running back and can catch passes for you out of the backfield. I think, kind of like a poor man's version of Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Gibbs has done a great job for the Detroit Lions the last few years. And I don't think, Brees is as explosive, and the knee injury probably has something to do with it. But, he's pacing out for 1,200 rushing yards this year. If you go, we know this guy's going to give us 1,000 to 1,200 rushing yards and another 500 receiving yards with a rookie quarterback. I think it's worthwhile to keep him.
You think the franchise tag is a real option? Because I feel like the franchise tag the Jets have, they're going to utilize that.
Yeah, I think they could. It's around, I think, $14 million for the franchise tag, which would be, I think, a little bit more than what he would get like on a longer term contract. But, maybe it's like a 2 for 24 or 3 for 33, something like that, I think is where I'm at extension wise with him. But I'm open to doing one of the tags, either the franchise or transition tag with Brees Hall.
Yeah, I think that gives the Jets all the luxury in the world. Now, the Jermaine Johnson one, I'm happy that he did not get traded because we needed some type of star to stay on that defense. Jermaine's now the new face of that defense. I'm curious to see what he looks like on Sunday against the Browns. And, I mean, when it comes to just like the players we got in return, even John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell, what's your thoughts about the two receivers we got? Because now you're looking at two guys that really have a chance to prove themselves. Like, I don't know if I'm just delusional or hopeful, but I'm trying to relax myself, just let them go out there and prove themselves. But the fact that A.D. Mitchell was in that trade for Sauce, like, I heard 2 first-round picks, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's a lot of draft capital, good. But then when I heard that A.D. Mitchell's thrown in there, like, it felt like 10 to 15 minutes later, that's when I was like, whoa, that is massive, because you're talking about the Jets desperately looking for a receiver to take pressure off of Garrett Wilson, and he's got all the talent in the world, buried on the depth chart for the Colts, did not work out as a rookie, and then he has that brutal mistake where he didn't look like he dropped the ball. It looked like it just slipped out of his hands, and it was devastating. Malachi Corley flashbacks, and the Colts just benched him, and they never even gave him an opportunity because they got all these guys ahead of him, Pittman, Downs, and Pierce, and Tyler Warren, so he never got another opportunity. He had like 95 yards in that game. So what's your thoughts of A.D. Mitchell and getting a fresh start, and even John Mechie? Do you think these two guys could actually be foundational pieces for this position next season? Because that's really what it matters the most.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're looking to find out in the second half of the year. Like, it does no good to have any Alan Lazard or Josh Reynolds reps the rest of the season. I'm more confident in A.D. Mitchell than I am John Mechie, just because like he's missed so much time already in his career, and I feel like it's been a hard road for him to come back and be the guy that everyone thought he would be coming out of school feels like a tough ask. But for Mitchell, you're right. Like, there is a lot of talent there. He had a huge game. Since then, he was targeted once a game in every single one of those games following the game against the Rams where he had that fumble. So they're not really using him. I think he has the most potential, but we have to see it. There's no doubt that he is extremely talented. I saw the videos of him on the practice field this week. He's obviously very quick. The route running abilities there. He's a good player who can go up and get the football, which is something I think the Jets are lacking. And I'm optimistic about it, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself and go like, oh yeah, he's for sure going to be this team's wide receiver too for the next few years. I'm not there yet. I think he's got to go out and show it first before I'm writing him in stone.
Yeah, he's got to prove it for sure. And I think that he's a true one of those receivers that's physical. And I think that he's big, man. I mean, how tall is he exactly? Let me see. He's 6'2", 205. So, like, this is your true X receiver. And Garrett Wilson is not the biggest guy. So this is a perfect complement on the outside to Garrett Wilson if it all works out, man. And I remember, like, in the draft process, looking at A.D. Mitchell, like, hey, like, that would be a good guy to pair up with Garrett Wilson. And he fell to the second round, and now he has an opportunity to be with Garrett. Garrett Wilson talked to the media today, and he gave his thoughts about Mr. A.D. Mitchell, and he's very excited about it. So we'll see. We shall see. Now, one topic I wanted to get into really quick with you is the quarterback position moving forward. There's a lot of people speculating the Jets can go after a veteran. or they go into the draft, or they get a bridge just to be able to get the quarterback in the 2027 class. There's so many options. We talked about it. It's so early, Matt, but where is your head at with this quarterback position long term? Like, because there's like a million different angles we can go with it. We can talk about this for 10 hours straight.
Yeah, we could be here all day talking about this one. I think it depends on where you end up drafting this year. I feel pretty good right now about both Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson. So I'd be comfortable if the Jets took either one of those two guys in the draft. If something weird happens and they don't have a top, call it 3 pick, and they're picking like 5th, and those guys end up going off the board, and Dante Moore and John Mateer go back to school, I don't think you shouldn't force anything. So while I'm not 100% team, like, no matter what, you're waiting till 2027, I think you kind of play it by ear and see who's available when you're drafting, and if anyone through this process really stands out. But it's such an important decision. They have to get it right. I don't think it's something you could just rush and go, okay, we're just going to take no matter who's their best quarterback available. I don't think that's the right approach.
Now, what about the veteran standpoint? That's also something that's kind of hard to predict because you don't know what quarterback it could be available via the trade market. But according to Adam Schefter, and this morning on ESPN, he said that he's expecting there to be an arms race for quarterbacks. So if there is an arms race and we see all these veterans now all of a sudden be available for trade, or some of them get cut, would you think that would be a smart approach to find their franchise quarterback, the veteran route?
If the Jets trade for Kyler Murray, there's a very good chance you'll never see me again on the internet. I might just retire in Wyoming and just stare at the mountains for the rest of my life. Joe Burrow's a little bit different. Obviously, I don't know the validity of him actually being available or not, and it would take a lot to get him. And there is the injury concern there too. I just don't think the Jets sell off Quinnen Williams and sell off Sauce Gardner, and then we'll pivot and bring in a quarterback that's win now. I think they want to find their own guy, have him on a cheap deal, and kind of build this the old-fashioned way through the NFL draft. It'd be surprising to me if they got all these picks, look like they're starting a rebuild from scratch, and then trade most of those picks and bring in a veteran quarterback.
Now, would you trade those for Joe Burrow though, if he does become available?
I would have to really think about it. I would think yes, because I would love watching him on my team for the next 8 to 10 years. I think that would be absolutely awesome. But there's significant risk in doing that. Same thing. You can make the case going into the draft, but the positive with Burrow is what he is. He's a top 5 quarterback in this league. He would have a good offensive line for a change. That'd be fun. I mean, we'd see Garrett Wilson put up 1,500 yards finally.
What would the package look like for Burrow? Come on, let's keep going.
Oh, God. I can't wait 5 more months of this.
I'm preparing you, man.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Out of 3 ones, something like that.
2 seconds as well.
What was the Deshaun Watson price? Because at the time, I know he missed a year, but I would think it would be at least the Deshaun Watson price, which I think was 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, I think it would be 3 firsts and maybe a second, maybe even a third. Joe Burrow.
Yeah, it was 6 picks in total, 3 of them first-round picks. So it would be 3 first-rounders plus.
And the crazy thing about that, though, you trade 3 firsts, you still got 2 firsts.
Yeah, that's wild, right?
That's why the Jets have ammo. You're not trading away your future. You're trading away assets in order to get your franchise quarterback finally here. And Joe Burrow is a guy that can absolutely be the personality and energy to uplift everybody around him as well. Hypothetical, it's dreamland. I don't want to keep talking about it because I'm definitely going to just set myself up for disappointment. But that's definitely one of those things that you dream about as a Jets fan with this treasure chest of picks. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who do you want the Jets to go after in the offseason at quarterback, whether it is a free agent or a trade or in the draft, or do they bring in just a bridge guy like Mac Jones for a year just to go into the 2027 class? Or I don't know, Matt. There's a lot of options, but luckily we have a long way to go before we have to really react to it. So we're going to wrap up the show here, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Jets Roundtable. I'm Richie. He's Matt. Anything you want to say to the people?
It's draft time, baby. Start learning mock drafts. That's what I'm going to be doing the rest of this season.
And I love how we didn't even mention the Jets-Browns game once on this show.
Why? Why would we? It doesn't matter.
Oh, man. Winning streak, baby. Continues. Let's do it. Now, okay, now that I said that, what would your reaction be? Jets beat the Browns and upset the Patriots Thursday, 3 games in a row. How are you feeling?
10-7 Super Bowl. Here we come.
That's what I like to hear, baby. Let's go, Jets. It's happening. You heard it here first. Peace out, folks. Delusional, baby. I love it.